You're listening to the Ones Ready podcast, a team of Air Force Special Operators forged in combat with over 70 years of combined operational experience, as well as a decade of selection instructor experience. If you're tired of settling and you want to do something you truly believe in, you're in the right place. Now here's your favorite CCT personality, JTAC extraordinaire, embracer of the ridiculous face, and like the shortest operator you'll ever meet, Peaches.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Ones Ready podcast. We've got another delicious episode for you. Today we're going to cover some of the Air National Guard tactical air control party stuff. So we've got a couple guests on that are going to help us out. The Guard can kind of be a different animal, and we've gotten quite a few questions on it. So that's why we brought these gentlemen on, so that they can answer your questions. So we'll cover a whole gambit of different things that you can expect in the Guard, and also transitioning from active duty to Guard. So just like we do on every single episode, we want to thank all our affiliates in terms of Alpha Brew Coffee Company, Strike Force Energy, and Eberly Stock. All great products, all great companies, and they support us. And by supporting us, they are not paying us, but please use the promo code ONESREADY if you guys want to get a discount on any of those products. And we use all of them, so hey, how about that? Okay, and also thanks to all the listeners out there. We really appreciate the support and everything that you guys have done for us, and please continue to engage us on Instagram, our email, and any other way that you can get a hold of us. So,
well, not any other way.
Well,
not any. No, please use the prescribed ways. Peach, come on, man.
Well, my phone number is 70.
Listen, man, let's put some boundaries on it. We try to get back to you guys. Hey, here's the goal, guys. Let's get to a point where we have too many emails that we can't answer. We do a good job. Peach is all over the email account. We're pretty good with the IG and the Facebook. So, man, let's get this thing going to the point where we're having trouble answering those emails. But for now, on the approved method, not direct, Peach, hit us up with an email. Hit us up with that IG, or leave a comment on the YouTube.
So we've got Ben and we've got Cody. Ben, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Give us a little bit of background info on your history and kind of how you became to be an Air National Guard TACP.
So I enlisted in active duty Air Force in 2009. Came in as a TACP. The only way I actually knew about TACP is my brother had enlisted and become a TACP about 4 years before me. He started off in SEER, went through part of their initial training, and then switched over to TACP about halfway through. Something about not being able to sew correctly, but I'm not really. I think he was just soft, but. So that's how I found out about it. I was actually looking into like the Marines and Army and things like that beforehand. Went over to the Air Force recruiter, found a little bit about TACP, and then talked to my brother about it, and he pushed me that way. I was active duty at the 5th ASOS in Washington State for about 6 to 7 years. Then I went to the weapons school where Peaches was actually one of my instructors there in 2015. Went back there shortly after to be an instructor, and that's where I made the transition to the Guard. So it was about 9 years active duty, and then made the transition to be a Guardsman. I've been there for about a year now.
Awesome. How about you, Cody? Go ahead.
Yeah, just pause there real quick. Just a quick question. Why did you make the transition? We get this question a lot. Guys are like right on that precipice. That 6 to 10 year mark is when you see a lot of guys do it. What was the deciding factor for you? Was it the stability of the Guard, or was it a different mission?
It was mostly stability. A lot of it was kind of the family aspect of it. Both my wife and me grew up in Southern Illinois. So having the 169th ASOS right there in Peoria, it's about 2.5 hour drive to where we both grew up. We've got parents that are getting older, having health issues, and grandparents, same thing. So we wanted our 2 daughters to be able to visit more often, see their grandparents grow up in that kind of that environment, kind of what we grew up in. That was probably the biggest factor that led us back here.
Yeah. Awesome. How about you, Cody?
So I also enlisted in 2009, and then as a traditional guardsman at the 169th ASOS, went through the pipeline, came out, went straight to Afghanistan, did a tour over there, came back, went to school for about a year. I was fortunate enough to get a full-time position out there. So I was recommended to apply for one of those. Got on there full-time, and I've been full-time at the 169th ever since.
Nice. So we've got a good mixture. We've got a active duty that has transitioned over to guard, and then we've got a full-time guard since cradle to grave, essentially. So awesome. One of the things that I asked Roomba on the last episode the episode that we had him on was what drove him towards TACP. So, Cody, what drove you towards TACP?
I really didn't know much about the Air Force and their combat-oriented jobs. When I first got in, I had a family friend who was 18 Alpha, and I was going to go, follow his footprints with that avenue. And as soon as he heard about it, he was like, "Absolutely not, man! You got to join the Air Force." So he's like, "Hey, man, there's a TACP unit about 20 minutes from where you grew up. Go down there and talk to those guys. Those guys are pretty cool, and they do some cool stuff." And he's like, "They can tell you what it is." So went down there, showed me a motivational video of people jumping out of airplanes and shooting guns and dropping bombs. And I was like,
"That brochure got you."
Yep,
yeah. Just do me a favor. Just tell me which Three Doors Down song was playing. Was it Superman? I bet it was Superman, wasn't it?
It was a tribute. It was actually all of them into one.
Yeah, beside you, baby. Yeah. It's a medley of every song about being deployed for 2 months.
Yep. So I know a little about TACP. I enlisted and then took the ride. So
awesome. And what drove you there, Ben?
I really didn't know what I was getting into, to be honest. Even though I talked to my brother about it a little bit. He was already a couple years in. I knew I didn't want to do anything ordinary, like a normal job that you could do in civilian life. I wanted to do something a little bit different. It was either this or kind of keep going down the wrong path in my civilian life. So I wanted to do something exciting, something I could travel, kind of the standard reasons why most people get in the military. But I wanted to make sure that there was at least an avenue for me to do something, kind of chase an adrenaline rush, I guess. I wanted something that had a brotherhood, something close knit, something small, so that I could kind of build those relationships and not be kind of just another cog, I guess.
Yeah,
those are the big reasons why. Following my brother's footsteps was a pretty big influencer for me as well. He was already doing well in it, and he enjoyed it, so that pushed me that way.
Dude, I had no idea that your brother was a TACP as well.
Yeah, he's a TACP, and then my oldest brother is a ABMer on AWACS. So Christmas is a lot of fun because we get to tell cool TACP stories, and then he has to talk about radar screens and blips and beeps and squeaks and things. So
exactly. So I'm the oldest of 4 boys. All 4 of us are in the military. I've got 2 helicopter pilots, myself, and then my youngest brother he's a first sergeant at one of the new cyber squadrons in the Army. But it's funny. It's like the airborne table, and then I'm like, well, it's a little bit different. My brother Brian's a formation upgrade pilot, so there's always I love the brotherly shit talking. It's always the best. So that's got to be a fun one for you guys because it's all the same. Be like, well, you sound like trash on the mic. Well, you sound like trash. Your calls were stupid.
Absolutely.
Wait, was your brother an instructor at the apprentice course here just a couple years back?
He was. Yep.
Was that? Oh man.
Frank.
All right. Oh yeah. I didn't want to say his name in case you didn't want to say it, but
if you say it 3 times, he just appears and smokes you.
No, he's actually one of the. It's a funny story. He used to come down to the gym at the swamp and work out, and we'd had students come up to us be like, "Hey, why are all the TACPs 6'3" and super huge and shredded?" We're like, "Guys, not all TACPs look like that, but Frank's a different kind of person."
Yeah, he is.
But back to TACP, going from active to guard, what was that like? What was the transition like? What are the big differences between active duty and guard?
So the transition was lengthy. It was a lengthy process, but it was fairly easy to navigate through. The first step in the process is getting in touch with the unit that that you would most likely want to go to, because in the guard, once you get there, that's kind of where you're staying because you get hired to that unit. There's no PCSs after that. That's where you're going to be. So you want to make sure you're making the right decision there. Get in touch with them. There's a lot of work with the recruiters on both ends. So you'll start talking with the recruiters on the base side where you want to go, as well as your in-service guard recruiter at your current base. There should be an in-service guard recruiter at every Air Force base. I'm not aware of any that don't have them. And they will walk you step by step through the process. And it's a VMPF online Air Force portal process where you will submit packages and all kinds of information, all of your background information, all your certificates, everything that you've ever done. You'll submit it through there, and it'll go through up through the Air Force personnel channels to be approved. And that's all based on, mostly driven by AFI requirements as far as timelines and how early you can get out before your established ETS and things like that.
Was it a fairly easy process, or is it pretty lengthy?
It's somewhat lengthy. Every part of the process is somewhere between 30 and 90 days, with the standard 30 and 90 days for every process. Probably the biggest hangups were, once you got to that point, if you weren't constantly on top of the person that was supposed to be pushing your paperwork through to the next part, then it would become stagnant, and it would kind of sit there for a little bit until you made a lot of calls and a lot of emails. But as long as you stayed on top of it and had some responsibility for it, then the recruiter was a big asset. They would always help as well, try and push it through, and it would keep it going. But you are kind of stuck to those. If they say it's going to take 30 days, it will most likely take 29 and a half days to get done.
Because they're going to wait until that 29th day to, well, look at that.
They just pull it from under their chair, and they're like,
yeah.
Oh.
Hey, if you wait until the last minute, it's only going to take a minute. You know what I'm saying? That's it. You have made it happen. Cody, what was different for you, kind of along the same line? So Meat made the transition from active duty over to guard. You came fresh off the streets, and you wanted to be a guardsman from the rip. Why did you make that decision as opposed to going active duty?
Well, I mean, I kind of fell in love with it. I was wanting to do some stuff on the civilian side. I also, felt like obligated, and I wanted to do something for our country, and which is kind of what got my foot in the door to begin with. But I still wanted to have a civilian life. And once I, had a taste of it, I went downrange and did a deployment. I came home, and I was like, man, this is what I want to do. So just getting that experience and that exposure, was extremely fortunate to get that position as well. Full-time guard positions are hard to come by.
Yeah.
There's only a certain amount of spots, and it's either someone has to die or retire, and those are really the only two options.
Yeah. Hey, can we pause right there? Can you explain to people, they might not know the difference between an active duty guard position and your more traditional guardsman?
Yeah, man. So you got your AGRs, your full-timers. They're the ones that pretty much just get the squadron running, day-to-day operations, same roles, responsibilities that, active squadrons have to do, just a lot less manning. So, it comes with the benefits of getting AGRs out there, but you also have a little bit more additional duties than a standard ASOS would have. But then your DSGs, man, they're out there with the the minimum days that they have to do throughout the year. So standard is 2 weeks a month, and then you got the 2 weeks in the summer. We kind of do a hybrid thing because it's hard for us to train on a 2-day period, especially being JTAX and keeping our currencies. So when we have to travel, we can't just call in airstrikes in our backyard. So we kind of consolidate them. We do sort of a hybrid. It's not quite a quarterly where you come out 1 week a quarter, but we try to, during the cold months, come out for 2 days, do all our admin stuff that we have to do, our CBTs and stuff like that. Then when it starts to get warm, we do like 7-day TDYs, and then we do 10 days or whatever it is to facilitate the training. So most of the time, there's civilians are out doing their day job, and then when our schedule calls for them to be out there, they need to come out there. I'd say TACP is a little bit more demanding than a normal, Air National Guard job, just because of the requirements of shooting, medical, and CAS training and all that stuff we have to maintain. But you guys know that coming in, when we come and get them off the streets, and like me was saying a second ago, the guard has to do a lot of its own recruiting. We don't, get the guys to come in. So pulling guys off of, active duty, guys that want to retire or not retire, get out, grabbing hold of those dudes that are already trained, stuff like that, getting them over. That's kind of where we have to go. So our recruiting is pretty hot and heavy, especially with the guard, with the min-man, getting guy from beginning to actually going down ranges is pretty daunting. So
the process then would be, so if I'm a dude just like no prior service or anything like that, and I want a full-time gig, I've got to come interview with you guys. And if you decide, assuming that there's slots available, then I interview, you guys decide to hire me, and then I go to the pipeline and everything like that, right?
Yeah, you would you would not get a job full time out there unless you were already like a qualified JTAC or qualified TACP. It's really hard to get them as young as I did. I think I was just fortunate to get that deployment and then build a relationship with the squadron. So I kind of got vetted and hired on early. A lot of it's guys that have been prior active and they've got time under their belt, or guys that have done a combat deployment or two. They have that time. A position comes available, then they apply for it. Then yes, just like you said, we have a board, and we assess them and make sure it's a good fit for the squadron and everything makes sense, and then we hire them out there. But for a guy to come out right off the streets and get a full-time position out there, like that, I don't think that would ever happen in the Guard.
Okay, and what about part-time then for that same kind of individual?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Part-time, we got the slots for that. I think every squadron does right now as well. Air National Guard, and that's just. They come in and say, "Hey, man, I want to be a TACP." They take the pass test. We assess them. We get them through the medical, make sure everything checks. And once they have actually passing pass test and their medical's good to go, then we send them just a basic, just like an active duty TACP. And then they go through everything just like active duty until they get done with their pipeline. And then they come back to us. We keep them on our combat mission ready days. I think we're up to about 365 days about the squadron. So I stay out squadron, get them all spun up, ready to go, JTAC qualified, and then once they're done, they go back to their civilian life and they're qualified JTAC, and they come out in the drills that they need to maintain their currencies and quals, and then their day to day is just doing their civilian job.
Nice.
Okay. Now we do have guys that we call guard bums, which are guys that are going to school or whatever it is that they want to be doing, but they really want to be involved in TACP, and they come out there and they ask for days. Hey, you got any days out there? And we'll hook them up with days and try to keep them out there as full time. And that just kind of flexes around the fiscal year and how much money and days we have for that year. But for a lot of the motivated guys, we're able to do that, and that's generally kind of the younger guys that are bouncing between college or jobs and stuff like that too.
Living out of a van, not a care in the world, just trying to call in some cash on the MOA dog. That's all. I'm just trying to trying to shred some sweet nar on the weekends, and I'm trying to call in some sweet lines on the weekdays. That's it.
Golly, man, I do miss that pow.
Man, the pop is so fresh. You got to get the gnar, bro. Meet more for you, because we're Cody touched on a whole bunch of it there, just a bunch of differences between active duty and Guard. What were the differences, especially since you came from active duty and now you're in the Guard? What are those other differences that guys can look for, especially when they're guys and gals when they're looking at career fields? And this is, I want to say for everybody listening, like this, we're talking specifically TACP because that's who we have on, but this applies across all of AFSPEC War. If we had two Guard PJs on, they'd be doing the same thing. They'd be talking differences, and all these things would be the same. So, take to heart what it is, the intent of what we're saying and what we're talking about here, and don't just be like, well, they didn't talk about combat controllers. It's a lot of the same stuff. So, off my soapbox, meat. Sorry, I had to endure that. But the question is, what are some of those other differences between active duty and Guard, especially from your angle, seeing both sides?
So some of the stuff that I saw in active duty that I was kind of concerned about making the transition was currency, just the training cycles, and I didn't really fully understand how, with as many currencies as all of us have, and qualifications we have to maintain, and upgrade processes and things like that, how that could possibly happen on a Guard schedule. But then when I made the transition, I looked back, and this was a big kind of eye-opening thing for me, is that there was a lot of time on active duty, not to talk down to active duty in any way, shape, or form, but that was wasted to the point where
How
they would
dare
get
you?
Dude, I was wondering what that sound was. I'm like,
you.
what was that?
How dare! It was the air going out of the room as I clutched my pearls at you.
Someone cut his mic. Cut his mic now.
Get him off of there.
I did it. I ruined it. So there was all this extra time that was it was spent doing things, but it wasn't. What the Guard does is it boils it down to only the training days that you need to meet the qualifications and the currencies that are required, with some leftover for additional qualifications if you want them, and to do extra things like go to airborne. And when it really boils down, it's like we have the days to do quite a bit of training outside of what's actually required, It's just if the person is willing to take extra time away from work, which is where that balance comes in, being a traditional versus an active duty. Like you kind of have to balance the career that the guy is pursuing on the outside, as well as how much he wants to pursue outside of his normal requirements when he's on days at the unit. So that was a huge kind of eye-opening aspect of it to me. Is like, it's when you really boil it down, we're meeting the exact same requirements and currencies and training aspects as active duty is, because we still run off the same AFIs and regulations. It's just in a different way, and it's disjointed, and the schedule is weird because they're not there full time. But at the end of the year, we still make all of our currencies.
Meat, both of you guys, or I'm sorry, Ben. If you guys don't know, Meat is his call sign. So, you guys have both used days. Could you, one of you, explain what you guys mean by days?
I'm gonna let Cody talk about days, because it's
let
the
the pure
most
blood
confusing thing.
Listen,
pure
all right.
blood.
Ever tried to understand.
Let the pure blood explain it. Let him walk us through it. Come on, Harry, you're a wizard. Let us know.
So I'm not going to get too weird about it. There are a certain number of days. So like as active dudes, they don't have to worry about days because they're out there 365. Days for us are boiled down to like what's considered a good year. And what I mean by good year is that they can actually count that as a retirement year. So there's a minimum amount of days that they have to be out there throughout the year to make sure that they have that good year. We have different like special training days, annual training days. Again, I could bore you guys to death, and it's pretty terrible. But boils down to really is like they have a certain number of days that they can get in order to come out there and train. And they can't come out there and train unless they have the days associated with it. And with the days comes money. A lot of admin nerd stuff that has to be done behind the scenes in order for our guys to come out there and actually train. Moral stories, we just need to have those. And if I say the fiscal year, just like the government works, we don't get anything as the fiscal year transitions. But then by the end of it, it's like, hey man, we got all these days and dollars. I need you to spend it right now. So generally speaking, with those guard bums, we get them out there at the very end of the fiscal year, and then there's like a 2-month lull where we don't have those days and money. And then it's right back to getting those guys out there. We're going on trips, we're buying gear, we're getting the wish list together, we're getting all that stuff that goes on. It's just a little bit unorthodox, but for the members, man, they don't see it. They just, hey, I want to come out here and train. Got it. We'll get you what we need to, and then they're out here training.
Okay.
One thing to add on to that is, so far what I've seen is I haven't seen us not having days for guys that want to come out extra or on top of what they're just required to do. So if somebody wanted to come out more days just because they needed a break from work or school or whatever they're doing, and they wanted to train more or go to a school or do whatever, there's always been enough days to do that. With the days, they follow the same process that the money does in the military, where you could get to the end of the year and you won't get your days allocated until a couple months in. But other than that, I haven't seen an actual limitation on days that has hindered anybody from doing the things that they want to do, especially or specifically for the traditional guys.
That's good, man. Because if dudes want to get some work in, then they're not being told no, and they don't necessarily have to wait until days become available. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about the guard too, is that, if guys are super motivated and they find a love and a passion for it, they can come out there as much as they want. And, if they end up doing it and committed and they're like, hey man, I want to focus on my civilian career, it's not exactly what I want. They just have to do the minimum commitment. They still get their, GI benefits and all the other, guard benefits are associated with it as well. So it's kind of up to the user.
Well, that's awesome to have that kind of flexibility to be able to do that.
So we kind of hit like a garrison one, and we did it from the lens. One of our other podcasts was on like, what do you guys do? Because the whole idea for the One's Ready thing that we're doing is like all of these questions that we've all gotten, we're trying to get it to a central place that we can get them to where instead of answering the question for the 4 millionth time, we're like, hey man, this is what this looks like. Like, Yes, you can go to airborne school. Yes, you can go to free fall school. Yeah, like all those questions that people ask you, right? One of the questions that we get all the time is, well, what does life look like inside of this thing, right? Like, what does a PJ look like day to day when you're at home? What do you do when you're not training? What do you do when you're getting ready for deployment? But we didn't ask it from the guard side. So for you guys, from like we'll put it in like the active guard box. What's a day to day look like for you guys just on a normal training, getting training cycle, getting ready to go deploy? What does that look like for you guys at home station as guardsmen?
So our day probably mirrors active duty for the AGRs, probably mirrors it pretty closely. We do the normal Monday through Friday, usually around 6:30 in the morning, starting PT, do that for a couple hours, shower up, get to your desk, start working. Most of the stuff that we're doing may be a little bit different from active duty, but it's still along the same lines. The guys that are there full time are essentially just putting together all of the TDYs that are to follow. So we're building the training, we're building the scenarios, we're doing the coordination with pilots, we're doing coordination with the range.
But I mean, even like, man, 07, you're there, you guys are working out, you guys go to work at 9, like that's the kind of stuff people ask, are like, hey, no kidding, what does life look like?
6:30 in the morning, everybody shows up. We start PT. It's somewhat on your own, but we've got a gym across the street that's built up for us to use. Most ASOSs in the Guard now have some sort of gym built up for their use, since the Guard bases are typically quite a bit smaller. You go and work out for about an hour and a half to 2.5 hours, however long you need to, stretch out, get back in the building, cook breakfast.
Wait, what?
Cook breakfast, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of breakfasts you making over there at the ASOS, dog?
I'm starting to see the difference between active duty and guard right now.
Yeah, wait, hold on.
It's some high-end stuff.
I got a lot of feedback in these headphones. But did you say Bloody Mary or Mimosa Bar?
Yes, absolutely.
Wild.
Bloody Marys by 9, and then White Claws by 1,300.
See, that's what I'm talking about, guys.
I don't even know what I've been doing with my life. I've been.
So after breakfast, get showered up, get in uniform, just like normal. Start a day in uniform around 9 o'clock. Once 9 hits, we're at our desks. We usually have an agenda for the day, or at least tasks put out. There's 2 main offices on the AGR side. There's what we call our silver team, or the ops room, and then there is the where me and Cody sit, is weapons and tactics in the ops suit position. Silver team pretty much runs all the planning for the upcoming TDY, so most of their day is spent either doing small admin things, as well as maintenance to all the additional duties that they hold, because they hold the majority of them, along with the front office people. And then the coordination for the TDYs. So sending emails back and forth, making phone calls, logistical things, all the stuff that you don't really want to do, but pays off in the long run once you get to the TDY, when the prep is supposed to pay out for the traditional guys, so that when they do show up for those 5 to 10 days, you don't want to waste any of their time, because they're taking time away from work to be there. So you want to make sure it's valuable for them. So most of our effort on a day-to-day basis is towards that. We get off work 16:30, and then go back home. The only thing that's a little bit weird is whenever you have a drill weekend, which is some of your standard. There's wing drills, and then there's other drill weekends that you put together based on really just kind of based on what the squadron wants to do. That would cause a one long weekend a month, essentially, where you would go Monday through Friday, and then you would have to stay there Saturday and Sunday when all the traditional guys show up. Usually you get some sort of comp day the following Monday or something like that to break it up, but that would be the only thing that's out of the ordinary from an active duty schedule.
Nice. And then Cody, is you like that new guy rolling in, like, first couple drill weekends, what was it like for you rolling into those first, out of the pipeline? You're in kind of that first year of training where you have those days to get upgraded and stuff. Like, for you, what was your focus on during that first part?
Really just upgrade, and then getting to know the squadron. Obviously, you're the new guy. You have absolutely nothing that you've done thus far. You're trying to build up the rapport with those guys, and then just figuring out how to get that JTAC qualification. And it's a little bit different now for the kids coming out of the pipeline. They're trying to just streamline everything. But back when I came through, you had to do your time as a row med, pretty much apprentice to JTAC, and it was just fulfilling that obligation, just trying to get to JTAC school as quick as I could.
Okay,
awesome.
Cool.
Hey,
sounds pretty awesome.
One of you guys, I think one of you guys mentioned, I can't remember. I know I wanted to talk about this. Do I get to choose if I'm a new guy? Do I get to choose which unit I go to? Like, or is it just kind of, hey, I go into the Guard and then I get wherever I want? And then kind of along with that is, what kind of distance am I looking at between the unit and where I'm allowed to live?
Yeah, I mean, you most certainly do. It's kind of where you live, and that's one of the benefits of the Guard is you get to stay kind of around where you live. Now, obviously, there's not a TACP Guard unit in every state, so for some, they have to travel quite a bit of ways over than others. But yeah, I mean, if you live out in Washington, the state of Washington, there's a ASOS out there, and you can go over to the Guard base and say, hey man, I want to be a TACP, and then go through the whole, assessment. Same thing, North Carolina or, in Illinois or Indiana, wherever the state is, if they have a Guard ASOS, yeah, that's where you want to be. And that's where you can do your whole time. Now, if there's positions and availabilities that open up elsewhere, you definitely have the opportunity to move if you want to. But if not, if you want to stay where you're at, then you're more than willing to do that.
So we've got a couple guys that live anywhere between 15 minutes from base that are traditionals, as well as guys that live states away that fly in and meet us for drill, either in Illinois or at the TY location that we're going to. It seems like it would be kind of a hassle, but honestly, it works out really well. They show up just like anybody else would at the same time as everybody else. They just take they take a plane to work instead of a car. So, but it actually works out pretty well. And it gives you the flexibility to kind of stay in a state where your career is kind of already established. And then you can join the closest ASOS or the one that's most appealing to you. And it kind of gives you the opportunity to shop around and find the state that you might want to spend some time in, or find a place that's close to where other family lives so that you can visit them on the way in and out of work and things like that.
Oh man, this is all sounding so amazing. So I'm a 19-year-old or whatever. I want to join your ASOS. I walk in for the interview assessment process. What are your top 3 do's, don'ts, tips, advice? Like, what's the quickest way for you to be like, we'll call you, don't call us, versus you're hired right now? You know what I mean? What
you just went from I'm washing my hair to want to Netflix and chill.
Right.
That's the scale that I want to talk about right there.
Just some really general,
Left on
specific
red.
advice about how to get hired on as a TACP and what you guys are looking for versus what you're definitely not looking for.
I think it's, kind of the same with all AFSCs within special warfare. We're looking for the same thing, man. We're just looking for, professional that's motivated and wants to be there, and just physically fit. And I'm not saying, the most fittest of them all, like, the 8-week assessment with all of SW right now. They do a great job of getting them into pretty good shape before they go to their breakouts. But they need to be motivated, and that's what we need. We need to be humble, motivated, and willing to learn, and really wanting to be there. I'm not saying you don't need to be in physically good shape. You need to be crushing it. Like, the standards are set, and the minimums are minimums. That's not where you should be. You want to blow people away, come in there and be the best, and that's how you're going to get hired. But if you're wanting to join the 169th ASOS, the best way is to go to the Instagram page and send a message, and we'll get them going. But I mean, we've got the slots for it, and I think all the Guard ASOSs do. As long as they want to be there, like, they'll get hired.
Awesome. Yeah.
Get it.
Trent's going to be calling you up.
I was gonna say, man, I was just hitting that little magnifier glass button, and I was like, 169th, is it spelled?
Actually, I mean, at the 274th, I don't know. They seem pretty cool out there in New York. I don't know. But I've met one of the Grazer brothers, so obviously, your physicality is got to be ridiculous.
I'm only 3 inches shorter, and I'm scrappier, I think.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
He actually toughened me up by beating my ass my entire life. So maybe now I can do something. I probably can't. I'll
No,
never show him this.
he's still got that mental game on you.
I hope he doesn't see this.
I'm sure he will. Hey, so as you guys go in there, what are some? Well, you mentioned the physicality of it. Like, so what are some great ways to prepare for the TACP pipeline? And I know this will kind of translate between guard and active duty. So, like, what did you guys do, or what would you recommend?
So when I first enlisted, I really didn't know anything about how to exercise, how to work out, what was the best way. Like, I didn't even understand what type of shape I needed to be in for the job that I was going to be doing. So I lifted a ton of weights when I was young. I probably hurt a lot of ligaments and tendons by lifting too much in the wrong way, the standard thing. But the good thing now is if you are in a good kind of balanced cardiovascular strength and conditioning type program, I think that's going to put you in a good place for the pipeline that is set up to kind of get you to the next step that you need to be at. I think what's probably more important, and what I was lucky to have my brother already in, is the mindset and the knowledge and being mentally ready to deal with some of the hardships that go through that. Because you're going to get, regardless of where you go in the pipeline, you're going to get tired, you're going to get hungry, you're going to get fed up. Things are going to be happening at home. You're going to miss home. It's not going to feel worth it anymore at certain points. And that mental fortitude is kind of the thing that's going to drive you through, as long as you still at least have some sort of physical strength and cardiovascular like baseline to go off of.
And,
absolutely. And cardio is a big piece in that body weight motions. Rucking is another one that is just something that I think people don't take seriously. And if you don't take rucking seriously, then it's going to break you.
What do you mean? You just put a backpack on and you walk. Like little kid, exactly. Little kids do it all the time. I watch hundreds of little kids just put the backpack on and they just. That's fine. Whatever.
That's usually what people think when they see me on the street out here rucking. Is look at that little kid go.
Whose kid? I was gonna say. Whose kid? You actually just saw Peaches on the side of the road.
Has a 65-pound backpack. Boy, that kid likes earth tones. I could do this all day. Let's just.
Hey, I'm gonna get roasted after this anyway, so we're all good.
Solid. So. Obviously, guys, we talk to an audience that is getting ready right now, from, sometimes from an active duty position, sometimes from already in the military, some different branch, sometimes 17, 18 years old. We talked about like physically preparing. What's the one thing that you would do mentally? If you could get yourself, put yourself now, like one thing that you would learn, you're going to go back, Cody, you're going to go back to fresh faced, 18 years old, square jawed, and ready to protect America. And you get to tell them one nugget of joy, like, hey, do this, and it'll make your pipeline more successful. What would old Cody tell young Cody?
I mean, honestly, just having that positive mental attitude, man, not wanting to quit. I mean, like I said, me touched on it too, is just, you're going to have that day where you're just like, you know what, this is stupid and I don't know why I'm doing it. And then I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. If you just have that attitude, man, like nothing can break you as long as, you're mentally strong and you can go through it. Then honestly, just try to enjoy it and have fun with it. That's one thing I wish I would have done a little bit more. Is just, we're down at Herbie, and that's a wonderful place to be.
It's not that really hard to enjoy yourself down there. You can just kind of, it just sort of happens.
Yeah, exactly. But no, man, just keeping that attitude, and you're going to be you'll be just fine.
Yeah. So meat, same thing. So there you are. You're getting ready to cross train. Future meat comes back and sees junior meat, which is something that made me laugh in my head when I was thinking to say it. That's the only reason I wanted to put it out there. Junior meat is there, and he's just needing that knowledge. And here comes senior meat. What does senior meat tell junior meat?
Stop saying meat.
I think the purpose. You got to have a purpose for what you're doing. If you don't have that, you're not driving towards anything. So there's nothing to keep you from just stopping and quitting. You've got to find, and a purpose doesn't have to be some sort of like deep seated like belief that you have. Like it doesn't have to be, I'm going to be the next warrior for America, and I'm going to, hold the land of the free on my shoulders. It doesn't have to be anything crazy like that. It could literally just be that you want to take an adventure. You want to be a part of a brotherhood that stands for something that you believe in. It could be anything in between those two extremes. But you've got to have the purpose, or you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. It is worth it too. That's the one thing that going through it all and it's sucking. It's just like, if I could tell myself now, it's like, man, the things you're going to do and the things you're going to see, like, just suck it up, man, because it's going to totally be worth it.
Right, and it gets a lot easier once you're on team, right? It's super easy lifestyle being a TACP.
Super easy, yeah, the easiest.
But see, like we're always telling the guys, like, hey, like the pipeline and all the training exists for a reason, because it's not like you get on team and none of that stuff applies anymore. Like, you don't have to ruck anymore. You don't have to run anymore. Life is just all like sunshine and rainbows. And I think especially in the TACP community, you guys you like to party, but you ride pretty hard.
They're the only guys that's in their name. They're not the tactical air.
Became a TACP.
Yeah. It's not the tactical air control get together. It's a party, dog.
I think that has to go with the mindset, man. It's like, just because you made it through TACP school doesn't mean you've really done anything, man. You haven't even gone down range. You haven't actually done the job. And it's just always staying hungry and always wanting to be the best. And that never stops at any level. Like, whether you're the new guy or the most senior guy that is there at the shop, like, you should always be wanting to be the best.
Can't argue with that.
No way.
So, one of the things I wanted to hit, and we'll probably wrap this up here after this question, but what are some, like, really right in front of your face, just smack you disqualifiers whenever somebody, whether they're interested in a part-time or a full-time, like what just gets them turned around at the door?
PJ hair.
Hey, first of all, I feel personally attacked. You know how I feel about it. PJs everywhere rejoiced when the stay-at-home order shut down all non-essential services, because they were like, finally, a reason to grow out these flowing locks.
Sorry.
No, man, me and I were talking about that a little bit. It really, the thing that's going to get you, that gets our guys anyways, is medical and the pass test. Like, if you can't pass the standards of pass test, you're not going. And those are the minimums I was talking about. Those is not where you should be at. Like, hey, man, I got the minimums, I'm good to go. No, you need to be excelling those. However, if you can't meet the minimums, you're not going. And then there's medical disqualifiers. And really the only one that I've seen that's been a really showstopper is depth perception, or like eye issues. We've had a lot of guys just kind of get discouraged about it, and then just, we never hear from them again. But I think we've had two guys in the very near past that have gone and gotten the LASIK surgery or whatever they needed to, and are coming back to assess with us. So it's not a showstopper, man. But pass, and I'd say medical is really the only things that are going to hold you up.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because just today I've answered several PRK/LASIK questions. So that is definitely something that people are out there going and getting, just to make sure that they meet the vision requirements.
Yeah, you're asking the type of guys that we want. Those are the ones we want. Like, hey, they got told no, and they were like, okay, well, I'm going to find an option and figure it out, because I'm not taking no.
No, awesome. All right. Well, unless Aaron or Trent have any parting shots, or Cody, Ben, if there was anything that you guys wanted to make sure that you got out there about the Air National Guard TACPs, now's your time.
Just one more thing on the transition stuff. I know I always get questions and comments from active duty guys that are currently active, that are wondering about the process and wondering what's going to change for them. And I just, so that if those questions come up, your life can change as much as you want it to whenever you make the transition. If you can get the AGR spot, it's not really going to change at all. But if you want to do the DSG stuff the traditional way, then it gives you an excellent opportunity to pursue a career that you've always wanted to pursue. You can go to school. You've got kind of all the options that you want to. You can live a civilian life and then still have the opportunity to remain in the community that you've always been in, that you love being in. So it gives you a good opportunity to kind of do both. If you're not fully committed, and then you've always got the opportunity down the road, if the slot comes available, that you can become full time if that's the way you want to go. So there's a lot of flexibility there, and if you want to pursue other things.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So to recap it then, what we've got is we've got Air National Guard and we've got active duty. Tonight we covered Air National Guard. You've got your part-timers, you got your active duty, or I'm sorry, not active duty, you got your full-timers, rather. Active duty.
I love how you're closing it up much. Yeah, it's much more like a carnival bar. You got your active duty, you got your full-timers. Hey, yo, here's what you got. You got your guard, your active duty. That guy's apparently from New York. I don't know. I'm sorry, Brian. Just want to publicly say it.
Oh, don't worry. After this, I'm going to text him and go, hey, might want to take some stuff out. So I think one of the overarching things, though, is that the Guard gives you quite a bit of flexibility. We have a lot of flexibility in the active duty, but Guard gives you flexibility on whether you want to be part-time or full-time. And then also if you want to live in a specific area, whether it's Illinois, Boise, or wherever there happens to be a Guard ASOS, you can go there, you can interview, and just make sure that you've got a positive mental attitude, you're motivated, and you're driven to get out there and get it. There's not much of a difference between, active duty and the Guard guys. And I got to be honest, guys, I don't think I've ever met a Guard dude that is not happy being Guard.
Not once. That's the thing that I can't believe that we haven't gotten to here is you've never talked to a Guard guy that goes, you know what, Guard, not the best decision I've ever made.
It was nerve-wracking, but it was probably the best decision I've made.
Awesome. Well, to everybody who's out there listening, we appreciate you tuning in and supporting us. I mean, from the bottom of our hearts, we love it. So check out our affiliates, Alpha Brew Coffee Company, Strike Force Energy, and Eagerly Stock. And then be sure to follow us and please leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing. Let me know how terrible I did at hosting this episode so that I can have remedial training and correct myself. And then
group chat gonna be lit.
Yeah. And then so leave those reviews on Apple Podcasts. Check us out on Stitcher, Buzzsprout. We're on YouTube as well. Leave us comments. We'll engage with you guys. And then please get after it. So get out there and earn each breath.
Train our guys. Cody, Ben.
Later.
Later.
Thanks for having us, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have a good one.